and welcome to Around the World in 80 Teas. My name is Sharon Hall and I'm the Chief Executive of the United Kingdom Tea and Infusions Association. And today we're going to be talking about Rooibos with my co-host Will Battle and our guests, Dr. Tim Bond and Martine Stewart from South Africa. So just to introduce everybody, Dr. Tim Bond is a natural health chemist and tea expert, and he has 25 years experience in the tea industry, from lab-based analysis to factory production. He also runs a tea consultancy called Tea and Herbal Solutions, and he's a member of the Tea Advisory Panel. Martine Swart manages the Secretariat for the South African Rooibos Council. The council is an independent organisation which responsibly promotes Rooibos and its attributes to consumers. And last but not least, my co-host Will Battle of Fine Tea Merchants also has 25 years experience in the tea industry, and he is the author of the World Tea Encyclopedia. Will, Tim and Martine, welcome to today's episode. And I would just like to say we are filming this episode at the Tea History Collection in Banbury, and if you want to find out more about this wonderful collection, go to teahistory.co.uk. So today we're talking about Rooibos, a drink that has been very popular in southern South Africa for generations, but it's now enjoyed around the world. It's brewed in the same manner as black tea, and you can take it with or without milk, with lemon. Essentially, you can have it exactly how you like it. It is the first non-Camellia sinensis infusion that we are featuring on Around the World in 80 Teas, and that really reflects the growing importance of this beverage around the world. So Martine, tell us, what is Rooibos and where does it grow?
Thank you, Sharon. It's really great to be here with you and to be able to speak about something that we are so passionate about here in South Africa. So before I speak about Rooibos, it's maybe good to share the English name that the audience will be more familiar with. So Rooibos is also called Redbush, which is quite interesting because while the brew is red, the actual plant is not. But Tim will tell us more about how this whole process runs a little bit later. So Rooibos, if you have to think about it in your mind's eye, is a shrub-like bush, and it's actually strangely part of the pea or the legume family. So it grows about 5 feet in height, and it has a smooth bark stem, and it subdivides close to the soil where it exits. And then it divides again, and on these little leaves, it's got small needle-like, very fine leaves, either in clusters or singly. So the next part I'm really passionate about, and it really shows us why Rooibos is such a special plant and such a special brew. So Rooibos is endemic to the Cape Floral Kingdom of South Africa. It means it only grows here in the entire world. So the Cape Floral Kingdom is also an internationally recognized biodiversity hotspot. It's one of the 6 floral kingdoms in the world. It is the smallest, and it's also the only one that is contained entirely within the borders of one country. It's very, very rich in plant life and species, and it has a total of 8,700 species in a comparatively small land area. It makes it one of the richest floras worldwide, and it surpasses many of the tropical forest regions, which is really amazing. So in South Africa, it is interesting to know that 1/3 of our plant species occurs within the Cape Floral Kingdom, even though it only takes up 6% of our total land area. So due to the multitude of microclimates and soil types and ecosystems, this kingdom really has a wide array of species, and many very special plants such as Rooibos have evolved here. So Rooibos only grows in the very rugged mountainous area of the Cederberg, and it's absolutely freezing in winter and boiling hot, like 42 degrees Celsius in summer. So if we think about the small area where it grows in the really extreme climate, it is an extraordinary plant. Because of this link to the environment, the industry and those who have been involved in it for many years have a very special bond and a great respect and a deep understanding for the relationship between the Rooibos plant and the environment where it grows. And I think the way in which we tangibly manifest this in the Rooibos industry is through participation in sustainable third-party certification schemes. So I think for the consumer, if I have to just put this in a little bit into context that people would find familiar, is if you maybe pick up your tea, you can see the Rainforest Alliance mark on the tea, which is the small frog, or you can see Fairtrade International, or more in the Dutch market, you can see the Oets mark. And what this means when you hold that tea in your hand, you can be sure that this product was grown and processed and packed with care for humans and care for the environment. Environmental stewardship is really very important to us in the industry. And this has come to mean to us that we really stay aware of the environment where rooibos is grown. And we understand the relationship between the plant and its environment. And we cultivate it in a holistic way so that we make sure that our cultivation will be sustainable for years to come.
That's fantastic, Martine. So what else would we expect to see in the Western Cape?
Oh, wow. Okay, so now I spoke to you a lot about plants, but apart from the plant diversity, the Western Cape is known for its beautiful landscape with mountain ranges and coastal areas. And I think the most famous of our mountains is probably Table Mountain. So that is right here where I am in Cape Town. If I peek out my window, I can probably see it. We're really a city wedged between the mountain and the sea. And from our shores, you can also see Robben Island. And this is where I think many of the listeners would know, where Nelson Mandela spent 18 years of his 27-year prison sentence. And for the more adventurous, you can hop on a boat and you can go over to Robben Island and you can go and visit the island and experience this part of South African history for yourself. So apart from the beautiful landscape and apart from the plant diversity, for those who do not know, the Western Cape is excellent wine producing country and an absolute foodie paradise. And over the past years, we've also really seen the development of a fast growing slow food movement. And we have many local specialities, which is interesting to try. And I think you can just drive and eat and drink for probably weeks on end and enjoy the beauty of our province.
Oh, you're making us very, very envious. Very envious. Thanks, Martine. So Tim, what can you tell us about how Rooibos is made?
Well, I think Martine's painted a really nice picture here, and especially with how it's actually grown. So if you actually look at the soil that Rooibos grows in, it's almost like beach sand. So there's almost no soil. And you've got to really dig in to get the moisture. So as Martine said, it's about yay tall. So effectively what happens is that in the summer months, all Rooibos is processed in the summer, basically because it's processed outside and you need that heat to actually dry the product. So effectively it's cut into sheaves where it's then delivered to over 100 drying courts, which we will call them. It's then cut up with old style tobacco cutters. And then it's either if you want to make green or if you want to make the traditional fermented Rooibos. If you want to go fermented, it's actually sort of then put into piles effectively on these court heaps, if you like. Unlike tea, where we spend a lot of time and energy removing water, so withering it, what they actually do, because Rooibos is very dry, you actually add water to the Rooibos. And again, there's lots of sort of skill in that. So it's not, there's no sort of litres per kilogram you add. Literally, you go along, you add the water, the farmer will then come along, grab a handful, squeeze it. When the juice starts to come out between your fingers, that's enough water. So it's very sort of touchy-feely, yeah, which is amazing. So then effectively it will ferment in these heaps. It'll be turned usually overnight, and then once it's achieved the right level of oxidation, it's more of an oxidation rather than fermentation, then it is again mechanically spread over these concrete courts where the sun at 42 degrees centigrade dries it. It's then gathered up again and then is actually further processed in terms of getting the cut sizes right. And then, because it's been outside, it's then steam sterilized to make it useful then for international shipment. So that's the red side. If you want to go to the green side, you don't want that oxidation fermentation step. So effectively you cut it and then spread it out and dry it immediately. But that's, in a nutshell, that's the process.
Wonderful. It feels like we're drinking more and more Rooibos here in the UK. You're an advisor to the UK's Tea Advisory Panel, and you were one of the authors on a paper about Rooibos. What was the story there?
Rooibos and health, I think, is really fascinating, and there hasn't been as much research as there has on Camellia, but it's catching up fast. And Martine, the South African Rooibos Council, is really sort of pushing that as well. So if we go back in the day, when Cape Town was established, it was actually a trading post between Europe and Asia. So there was a lot of tea that would come from Asia to Cape Town. But these guys were not farmers. So they were settlers, basically traders. So they learned a lot from the indigenous people. So when they started to go out and farm, really you had a lot of indigenous knowledge. Martine said how many plants there are. I mean, in terms of Rooibos, there's many species of Aspalathus. There's only one cultivated subspecies of Aspalathus linearis that's cultivated. So really the way we drink Rooibos today is a combination of indigenous knowledge, the way the Chinese used to make tea, which is obviously just infusing it, and then the way we in Europe, especially in Germany and Holland, how we used to make herbal medicines. So again, getting medicines was difficult. So the traders were encouraged to actually get their own local medicines. So there you would put it into a decoction, so you'd make it very, very strong, take a portion out and then dilute it. So it's really this unique combination of those sorts of Asia, Europe, and the indigenous peoples that gives us that. So the indigenous people actually used it as a herbal medicine. So in its infancy, it actually was a medicine. So that's really from the health aspect. Now the health is catching up. So what we've done is we've reviewed the last 20 years of published literature. So it's peer reviewed, which means it's at a certain standard. We've then taken all that information together and looked at the trends. So overall, Rooibos can support and does support a healthy lifestyle. But drilling down into a bit more of the details, there's some specific studies to show that it helps with lipids and redox potential. So that will be antioxidants effectively in the blood and the lipid profile, which could help with cardiovascular health. You've also got glycemic control, so that's control of sugar. So obviously there's a potential use of it in type 2 diabetes. And especially when we eat our food, as soon as you eat the food, you get what's called a postprandial surge. Sounds lovely. So effectively what happens is your body immediately starts breaking down some of the starches and releases sugar, which is why you get the sugar rush. So Rooibos can actually help slow that down. So it gives the body time to adjust. So those are sort of the human trials. We're getting a few more lab studies out now, which are showing really interesting stuff in cognition, bone health, and other aspects of health. So I think we're going to see a lot more in this space.
And let's not forget hydration. Great to drink for hydration as well.
Absolutely, and hydration, I think Martin said as well, Rooibos is caffeine free. So it's key for someone who wants to avoid caffeine, someone who wants a beverage at night. And as you say, there's no caffeine. So basically you're getting water plus with Rooibos.
Sounds great.
It does, it really does. Postprandial surge, quite like that. Martin, how would it be prepared and drunk locally in South Africa?
I just first want to say it is just extraordinary to have somebody like Tim speaking to Rooibos. I think I learned a thing or two, Tim. Thanks a lot. But so in South Africa, we really see Rooibos as part of our heritage, and the ways in which we enjoy it is as rich and diverse as the people of our country. So if we think way back to the olden days, there used to be wood-burning stoves in the homes in South Africa, and people used to put the pots of tea on the wood-burning stove, and they leave it there all day, and it brewed to such a dark color that you could almost mistake it for coffee. So I think there's still a little bit of that tradition going on with the older generation, and they use the loose leaf and they put it still on top of the stove, slow heat, and they boil it, and there's a cup ready when somebody comes around. I think for the younger generation, or for most South Africans, certainly we have, I don't want to say fallen into the trap, but we're embracing the more convenient way of enjoying it. So we drink it in tea bags. And as Sharon also mentioned in the beginning, you get your purists. So they just drink it with no additives. Or some people add lemon and honey. Very good if you have a cold or a sore throat. Or then if you're having a bit of a tough day and it's cold and you want to have it a little bit more comforting, you can have it with milk and a bit of sugar. But we also don't limit our tea drinking only to winter or to the colder months. So we also have Rooibos in summer, and we brew big old pitchers of it, and we put in fruits, and we put in herbs, and we put in lemon juice, and you leave it in the fridge. And this is really a trend that has seamlessly migrated, if you want, to the shelf. So in South Africa, we now get a very wide variety of Rooibos iced teas that you can grab and go. How we drink it.
That traditional way of drinking, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose it hits on the fact you can't really overbrew it, can you? You can sometimes I have a tea bag, forget about it, I leave it there for 20 minutes, but it's still great to drink, as long as you go back to it.
As long as you go back to it. And I also think if you really brew it, it doesn't become bitter. So some brews may become bitter if you leave it really maybe long on the heat, or if you brew it for a really long time. So you can just leave it and it infuse. And And more and more people are also blending it. So maybe blending rooibos and chamomile. So blends of different teas that also that get you the goodness of rooibos, but also then mix with the goodness of other ingredients, which is great.
And Tim, just building on that, can you sort of comment on where we're going to go with rooibos? What, the versatility of it.
I mean, as Martin said, rooibos is a great all-rounder, and it's hot, it's cold, it's with milk, it's without milk. As usual, it doesn't become bitter and astringent with longer steeping times. So those are the more traditional uses of it. Martinez also said the ready-to-drink business. I mean, I think how and where rooibos is going, we need to look at South Africa. South Africa, if you look back in the UK, definitely in the sort of in the 80s, rooibos was just found in health food shops. It wasn't found in mainstream. Now, if you go to a supermarket shelf, you will find a lot of rooibos, a lot of the brands. A lot of flavoured rooiboses, so caramel goes well with it. In terms of blending, I mean, Martinet will know this one. I mean, it's a fantastic blend that you can make. It's rooibos, honeybush, and buchu. And buchu is one of the original bush teas. Again, it's a medicinal herb. It used to be, back in the day, before modern chemistry came along, it used to be the source of blackcurrant flavour. So there was a massive boom in South Africa with the buchu farmers. And buchu is still now grown. I think people are looking more for the natural, but that really nice combination of the floral kingdom is a brilliant one. So those are the beverages. You're also finding extracts used in skincare preparations. There's a number of particularly South African brands where they're actually looking at that. Extracts are finding their way into drinks, into foods. And again, there's now a rooibos equivalent of matcha, the milled Japanese green tea, and that's also being incorporated into smoothies, baked goods, yogurts. So you're finding that, and the really nice thing about rooibos matcha is the taste isn't as polarizing, I would say, as green matcha, and it's a lovely color. So what's not good about
What's
it?
not to love? And Martin, are young people drinking rooibos in South Africa?
Certainly, if we think about, I think trends worldwide, it's also showing in South Africa. So I think Tim mentioned rooibos is caffeine free, and in South Africa I think we become increasingly aware of the health properties of the brew. So people drink it to be healthy, people drink it to stay hydrated. Recently now we did a study for the ability of rooibos to also support recovery after exercise. So they drink it for all of these reasons. And, we grow up with it. So if you, I don't know if it's optional to drink it, not to drink it in South Africa.
At what times of day would you drink? I mean, do you have it with breakfast, lunch and dinner, or
all the time?
All the time.
So some people prefer it. Yeah, some people prefer it with breakfast, then maybe a cup for lunch. And also if you want to not have so many coffees and you feel like something warm, or just like in the evening before you go to bed. No, it is really down to your own preference.
And is there a food it goes really well with?
Oh wow. Okay, so there are many recipes now for rooibos, and it is used in, so obviously it's used in baking. So as Tim said, so you can put it in muffins or you can put it in puddings. Some people make meat marinades of it. So we put it on spare ribs, and we put it on chicken, and we marinate meat, and then we put it on the barbecue, on the braai, as you would say in South Africa. And then they put it in smoothies. And end of last year, we actually did a campaign with a barman where we made a few rooibos cocktails. So instead of your sugary fizzy drink, as the mixer, we used rooibos. That was really, so people really use it as a drink, but really also increasingly in food.
Mm-hmm.
So Martin, tell us, what was the biggest success on the cocktails? What's it go best with?
Oh my word! There was one. I don't. Probably they had some gin and orange. So there was one where they had like a burnt orange peel that they used, but it's really extraordinary, and I can maybe share the video with Sharon. But the barman made like with a dry ice, so it was this whole smoking affair of a rooibos cocktail. It was really extraordinary.
Fabulous.
It does. So, and Martin's point is really good. That it is using a lot more actually in the gin industry now. So I think that's going to come out of South Africa. And just the other one, which good for the UK because the guys in South Africa have the weather for it. But Rooibos cold brew.
Yeah.
So again, perfect for those sort of on the go moments.
One of the things I got really into when I was traveling in South Africa was Rooibos instead of coffee after dinner. And I think that sort of naturally caffeine-free option was great. And I love the versatility of Rooibos there. As someone brewed it for me in a under pressure in an espresso machine, and you get this lovely creamer on the top, don't you? Which you don't always, you probably wouldn't get if you put tea through an espresso machine. And I think that's that's sort of Rooibos's segue into coffee, which sort of just goes to show what a wonderful, versatile product it is. One of the things I tried once was Rooibos with a bit of cinnamon, sugar, and some foamed milk, and then the shot of espresso, and you got this lovely indulgent after dinner drink. And I just think it's just an amazing, versatile, also coffee alternative.
It's definitely one of my pet passion projects. Go to a restaurant, you get them the dessert menu, and it'll have all these coffees on it, and then it'll just say tea.
Yeah.
And there are no choices of teas, and there are no choices of infusions. And I think we're hearing through this series some wonderful examples of the versatility of both tea and other infusions. I'd like to see these offered in restaurants in the UK.
Here.
So you heard it here. So Martine, is Rooibos only grown in South Africa?
Exactly. It is only grown here. And this is something that we're really proud of. And because it is such a national heritage product, we also wanted to protect this. So for the past few years, we have been on a journey to register geographic indication on Rooibos. And this actually, we succeeded in doing this and getting it on the EU register for geographic indications on the 31st of May of this year. So it's a very new achievement for us. It is the first food geographic indication to come out of Africa. So that was really extraordinary. And what it means is that there is only a certain area where the product is grown and where it is processed. And only if it is grown and processed in this area can you call it Rooibos. So if somebody, for example, managed to grow it in the UK, they will have to sell it as red herbal tea. They cannot use the word Rooibos or Redbush. And this was really important for us to protect the name and also to bind Rooibos to its place and its people. So that was really something, that we're proud of and that we're happy to have achieved.
Yeah, it's a great achievement, as you say, and I think also place, people, and heritage and history, linking all of that together makes it really special. And it, having that story behind the product, I think is really interesting for consumers.
Exactly. No, it is really interesting for consumers, and I think also what we see as a trend in the market is consumers more and more, they want to know about the origin of what they consume and even the cosmetics or what they use. So they want to know the origin, they want to know the story. They want to have an idea of where it is grown, how it is made, the people, the country. And I think geographic indication or GI is a good way of communicating this, but it also opens the door for engagements such as these to speak more about it, to share more knowledge and to share it more widely, which is fantastic.
Thank you so much to our guests, Martine Swart and Dr. Tim Bond, for joining Will and I on this episode of Around the World in 80 Teas, talking about Rooibos, or as we've learned, Redbush. It's been an absolute fantastic journey through the Western Cape, and I hope you'll all try this wonderful beverage. Thank you very much.